What you gonna do? I need to share it. That's I gotta get on my Facebook. Aha. Legit.
I know.
Oh, they said do not disturb. Welcome in. Welcome in. First of all, the tea is wonderful. I told you it wasn't hot. I use a little bit more sugar, but that's all right. A little bit more sugar.
Yeah, I like that.
Let me see. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I really want to share it, but I can't get to it on here. Where's it at? It's on here. Hello, y'all. Welcome.
Welcome.
I'm about to get started just here in a second. Can somebody share this to the group? Will the comments pop up?
They
Right
should.
there? Or do I need to swipe?
Probably so.
I need to swipe.
See it. Yeah. Well, no, there it goes.
Oh, there they go. Okay. Can somebody share it to the group? We have a good show for y'all today. I'm really excited about the show. I'm really excited about the show.
Me too. It's very much needed conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so I need to go to, give me one quick second, pulling up something, and then we can get started. And that gives us enough time for y'all to share this live. Be sure y'all share this live. Are you going
I'm
live?
sharing it too. I'm just sharing it.
Oh. I thought you was gonna go live on yours.
I
Set
should.
it up right there,
I
boom.
should.
Get it together.
Happy make sure saying disclaimer.
Cause why not?
Yeah.
The more people we reach, I feel like each one teach one. The more people you know. What's up, you guys? I'm really excited. Where is my Facebook? I just had it up. There we go. Now we in action. We are in action. Can y'all hear us okay? Can y'all hit the hearts or something? And let me know if y'all can hear us. Because I had some technical difficulties last time and it was a little rough. So hopefully y'all can hear us good. Or actually you can open it on your phone, can't you? Oh, they can hear us. Okay. So I got to pull it up right here. All right.
I want to get you too.
I'm on here.
I want to get you in there.
Hey, y'all. Okay, y'all coming in. We're about to get started. Okay, ready?
Yep.
What's up? Okay, we on two different phones. Okay, so welcome to Sensuality with Lyric. This week, I have a special guest that I am really excited about. I have a domestic violence advocate. Not only that, but she is also a writer and author. I always have a hard time saying that word. Author. Is it Arthur? No, I'm just playing. It's author. She's also an author, and she also works alongside me with Beyond the Shade, and she is a certified sexologist, certified through the United States Board of Sexology. So this is Taliah. Everybody show us some love. So before we get started, the tea that we have for today is the same tea from last week. Yes, it is. Because I'm going to do them 2 weeks in a row, just in case nobody's seen it. So the tea this week is called BTSM, and it is from Sis Got Tea, who is a collaborator with Beyond the Shade with this particular tea. This tea is an aphrodisiac tea. Don't get no ideas. No, I'm just playing. It's an aphrodisiac infused tea. It has ginseng in it, which of course it helps with the libido. It also helps with erectile dysfunction if you are a man, but it helps you get all of the juices flowing. It also has rose oil in it, which also helps with libido and gets your juices flowing. Okay, so that is the tea that we're having today. So cheers. Cheers.
This is very great.
The tea is available to order If you want to order the tea, let me know. We can do that as well. Now, I do want to say before we get started, I want to give y'all a trigger warning. This topic for this week could be triggering to some people, but it's definitely a topic that needs to be seen. They're going to be like, turn your phone.
Well, because I want you in it too.
It's okay. I'll pop in or scoot it back a little bit and then you can do it like that. You know? Oh, but can you still see? You can't see the people saying what they saying. Okay. So yeah, it is a trigger warning. I also want to let you guys know that we are not therapists. We are not doctors, but we are both certified clinical sexologists. Honey, certified by the United States Board of Sexology, and then we also have lived life experiences to where we can talk about these types of topics in relation to domestic violence and domestic violence awareness. So with that, I want Taliah to talk about a little bit of the history of domestic violence awareness because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
It is. So, first things first, October. October has always been known more so for breast cancer awareness, which I support. Rest in peace to my grandmother. She had breast cancer. But domestic violence awareness is also in October. So a little information on the history. In 1994, it was brought to Congress, and it's actually called I want to give you the actual term, so my apologies, I had notes on my phone. But the Congress passed the Violence Against Women Act in 1994, but the act didn't really go into effect until 1996. So if you think about that, that's not long ago. I will give my age. I was born in 1990, so when I was born, there was no help for those who experienced domestic violence. There was no outreach programs, any resources. That
huge.
Just happened in 1996.
That's huge when you think about it because, I mean, my brother, like you said, you said 1996? That's like around the time my brother was born, and that's crazy. So you're thinking from the beginning of time up until 1996, like women or men really were not protected at all.
No, not at all.
When it comes to domestic violence.
Yeah, my brother, he'll be 23 next month. He was born in 99. So it's
Wow.
not even 23 years that this has been, well, not even 26 years rather, that it's been in effect to have some resources available. I also want to speak on some signals. There are many times that things are happening and you cannot call anybody. Maybe you're on video with a friend or she's going live. There is a hand signal that you can utilize to show that you need help. But if we all don't know as a group what that signal is, how would you be able to help that person?
Right.
So I do want to just show you all that hand signal. It's very simple. You literally just hold your hand up, all 5 fingers. You're going to go into the 4 and then just pull your fingers down kind of like a fist over your thumb. So this is the signal for domestic violence. If you're ever in a situation where you have to make a signal to someone, hopefully they know the signal. But that's why we're here this evening, so that we can give you all that knowledge and that information so that you can be aware if by chance it ever happens to you or somebody else.
Yes. So with that being said, I want to define domestic violence by Webster's definition. So domestic violence is violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving a violent abuse of a spouse or a partner. The term domestic violence also means, that was the definition, but the term domestic violence also refers to an abusive behavior in any personal relationship that allows one partner to intimidate or gain power and control over the other. So a question I wanted for us is, what do you consider domestic violence? Is it limited, do you feel like, to physical abuse?
No, not at all. Domestic violence is not just physical. Domestic violence is emotional. It is mental.
Psychological.
Yes, it's psychological.
Sexual.
It's sexual, yes. It is all those things. It doesn't have to actually be physical to where you are hurt physically. It's more than that to me, because I have experienced many different types.
Yeah, so going into that, I wanted us to start off with our own stories about what we've experienced within domestic violence. That got really loud all of a sudden, didn't it?
Yeah.
Is the music a little loud, you guys, or are we good? Oh, we're good. But I want to talk about our personal experiences with domestic violence, just so people that are watching do not feel like we are talking from a not life experience. You know what I'm saying? So y'all can relate. You want me to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can go.
Okay, I'll go first. So I was in 2 separate domestic violence relationships throughout my life that I can remember. You know, like not remember, but I think I've been abused mentally in some relationships as well. But the 2 relationships that I know for a fact that were like intensely domestic violence were 2 of them. I was in a domestic violence relationship with a male and a female. The male one first, I was around 18, 19, and I was dating this guy. And it started off really good. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Relationship on point. At the time, I was a dancer, and I was working at a strip club, and I had met this guy, and we had started dating or whatever, and he, like, took care of me. Like, he was buying me all this stuff, and he got me out of my little apartment, because I was living in this apartment that was kind of like rinky-dink. So he got me out of my apartment. We got like a little apartment together. We had a whole little life. I thought I was just doing it up. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, one day we got in this argument, and I remember that I threw his keys. Like, I got mad, and I threw his keys. And, like, from that point on, it was, like, all she wrote. So, just from, like, the verbal abuse, the sexual abuse, because there was times where I didn't want to have sex, and, like, he was taking Cialis, the pill Cialis. And so I was, like, I had to have sex with him whenever he was on that. So, like, I would be like, no, I don't really want to have sex or something like that. And then it would just be the violence again. You know what I'm saying? And then I had to do it. So I know that what got me out of that particular relationship was like he had hit me so hard that my jaw like got stuck. Like it was like it was stuck open. Like I don't know what happened, but my jaw was like stuck open. So I had to go and get it like fixed back or whatever. And then like we were living in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and like I had to call the police. And then after that, I just didn't go back. I ended up moving to Atlanta shortly after. And then in the female relationship, that was the one that I remember the most, because I feel like that was the most traumatic experience that I had. But like when you're with a lesbian, you think to yourself like, we're women. So if I make you mad enough, or if you make me mad enough, then if you pop off on me, I'm gonna pop off on you, you know? So in that particular relationship, like I thought it was love. Like I legit thought that we were like so in love that we put our hands on each other. And it got to a point where she held me down one time and like spit in my face, to the point where the spit just like went down my face and like it was going down this way. She knocked me unconscious before, where the neighbor had to call the police, and she actually got charged for that. So she went to jail for that. And then she tried to throw me off a balcony, and at one point she told me that she had dumped out all the knives on the kitchen, on like the stove or whatever, and was like, which one of these do you want to die with? You know what I'm saying? And then it was just like, but I stayed in that relationship for 2 years, and like everybody around us knew that I was in that relationship, because hello, I had black eyes all the fucking time. Like I had black eyes all the time. My lip was busted all the time. And sometimes I fought back, and sometimes I didn't. There was a time where we was in Kohl's, and she had hit me so hard that I was like terrified, to the point where we was on the expressway, and she was like, I'll put you out this car, and was like reaching over me and was like, I'll push you out this car on the expressway, like driving 80 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I stayed for so long, and I didn't see. It's like I knew that we shouldn't be fighting, but at the same time I was just kind of like, we're women, you know, we're women. So I was very confused. But one thing I will say about this experience is that when I was with the dude and I told my mom that I was getting beat on, like she was more adamant on me leaving that relationship than when I told her about my female relationship. It was just kind of like, y'all need to figure it out, or I like her, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was more accepted, in my opinion, than when I was with a man. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's a problem too, but then we can get into that later, because that's the LGBT part of it. But I ended up getting out of that relationship because one day I was away. I had got beat up again. And I was away with my mom. We went to Atlanta, and I came back, and I was like, you know what? I'm just done. Nothing had happened that day. We didn't get into it. We didn't argue nothing. I was like, you know what? Today, I'm just done. I had to call the police to get her out. She flushed my fish down the toilet. Like, she did. She tore up the house, and, like, it was like a horrible experience. And then that day, I just stopped. We just left. I let her have the apartment, like, because it's crazy, because in a lease, we had a no unlawful contact warrant. So she could be in my space as long as she didn't do anything unlawful.
Yeah, I want to touch on that too a little later when it comes to Kentucky and their housing, when it comes to someone just staying with you for a week. Now it's their house and you're their landlord. Yeah. We have to do something about that to make it better for those who are in these situations, men or women. The person should be able to leave. If you're not on this lease, you should not have to go down and file no eviction like you're their landlord. I do not like that, and I do not think that's right at all. Hearing your story, it's crazy because I have never heard it. And what you said, I've been through like almost those exact same things, from the expressway to the spit. That's actually how mine had began in one of the two. I've actually had 3 domestic violence relationships, really. One of them I didn't know was domestic violence. At that time, I was 19. But it was emotional and mental. But I know that now that I've experienced some physical. But the person I was with, I've known them for a long time. So I was thinking that, why not give it a shot? I've been knowing you all these years. Let's, give it a chance. So everything is perfect in the beginning. They were doing it up. They were doing things other mates never done. They're buying shoes. I was like, I got these Nikes. It's not about materialistic things, but me being in a place with other people where I never, gotten that type of love language, right? Giving, gifts and receiving things. So I like that. But for me, what happened, there was a situation which I do prefer not to discuss, but they wouldn't let it go. And this is prior to us even being in a relationship, but they kind of held it over my head the whole time. And I was with them for 2 years, but they spit in my face. That was the number one thing that happened, where I was like, this is, too much. Because I think it's very disgusting. You don't spit in nobody's face.
I remember that day perfectly. Yeah. Like that, I was in front of people too. So that felt so degrading, but I didn't even know how to react.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that?
Yeah,
or was it
I did. I wasn't in front of people, but I didn't know how to react because nobody's ever spit on me in my life. Like, you don't spit on people. But what he said was, I did this so that I wouldn't hit you. And I actually, to be honest, and I can't say I'm ashamed to say, but I guess I'm ashamed to say, I believe that. I bought that. I'm like, well, shoot, I don't want them to hit me. I guess I'd rather you spit in my face. But you don't spit on people. Like, you don't do that. So that's one occurrence. There's been several times where I couldn't leave the house. They would take my keys. They would not let me get on clothes. You know how you may be lounging around, you ain't got nothing on, I got on a little something. You got to really get dressed to leave, though. I couldn't get on my clothes. They would take my keys. They would hold me down. I would be on the floor. I would be kicked. I would be smacked. I would be choked. Trigger warning, because I haven't even told some of my family the extent of what happened. They know about the spit, but they don't know about the other things that happened to me. And then the knife, when you said that, I had to hide my knives because I was scared in my own house. But they pulled out the biggest butcher knife and was like, want to play a game? Like, it's funny. Like, this is not a game. You don't play with knives. It's something that most people are taught when you're a child. You don't spit in people's face. It's like the most common courtesy things you think that an adult man or woman should know. It just goes out the window.
Right.
So that's one situation. Another one, they didn't physically do anything to me, but I had a lot of stalking, because stalking is another form of domestic violence that we haven't touched on just yet. But they stalked me. They put nails and screws underneath of my tires. So whenever I left home or anybody else's house, I would run over the nails or the screws. And now I'm paying for new tires. I'm late to work. They broke into my house. So when they broke in, that's when I actually did something as far as calling the police, because now you're breaking into my home, you know.
Right.
So I did call the police, and I actually had to go to court for the first time in my life. I personally don't have a record, nothing against those who do, things happen. But it was scary for me to have to go to the courthouse. I've never been down there. You know, I'll ride past if you're down in Nulu or in the area, but I never had to go to court until I had to go. And they labeled it a DVO, a domestic violence order. And I was like, domestic violence? But he didn't really hit me, but he did put screws under my tires. He did break in my house. He did put Nair in my body wash. Like, that happened too, yes. Luckily, I smelled it. I was running a bath water. And I don't know, something told me to just smell it. And it was Nair. Like, my bottle of Nair was in the trash, empty. So us as women, you know, we're very sensitive in some areas. You don't want to sit in a bath water full of Nair. It's not healthy. So you're doing things to really try to hurt me. May not be physical, you know, punching and whatnot, but they did the most. Yeah, so that person actually had the DVO, whereas the person who did all the physical stuff, I didn't even go down there. I told my family, but I didn't want to go to court again. Like, I feel like, you know, they're going to think, well, what's this lady's down here again? Different person, but people are not who they portray themselves to be. A lot of people would tell me, or they would ask, they would say, why do you keep picking this type of person? I would never pick that type of person. You know, people portray themselves to be something completely different, and then when you get with them, everything's perfectly fine, but then just in the middle of nowhere, something happens. So that's kind of my story, stories. Another one long ago, that was more so like isolation. Keeping me from family. I was always just with them at their place, just trapped. And I thought it was fine. You know, I never been nowhere. I'm only 19, never been out, never done nothing with nobody. You know, I'm in college, so I can drive and go in here and there. But you shouldn't be isolated from family members and from friends.
Absolutely not.
I missed a lot, I feel like, of my siblings' childhood. And I never told them this, so if they are watching, I love y'all and I'm so sorry, but I was distracted at a young age. And at least, you know, sometimes people have to go through things in order for you to be able to help somebody else not go through that.
Right.
So I'm the big sister to where, unfortunately, I did have to go through that, but I went through it to try to help them not do what I did.
Right.
And that's one thing I will say, and we can move on, but what really got me, and I'm trying not to cry, but what really got me was my little sister. She is only 21 years old. It's my baby. I'm 11 years older than her, 9 years older than my brother. And this is just my mom's children. My sister knew what was happening from me talking to my mom. And I went back. I didn't leave. So when I hear you say I dipped, I commend you, because it took me
it took me a while.
Okay, you did say 2 years, but it took me a minute to leave.
Felicia.
It really did. But my sister, she asked me one day, she was like, why do you stay, or why do you put up with that? She's asked me something, and when she asked me that, it made me say to myself, like, nah, you know, you have to really leave for real. If not for yourself, do it for your sister, do it for your family, do it for all the other women who may not have made it out of those situations, because some people die from domestic violence. And I didn't want her to just think it's acceptable, because some people do that. You know, you have your siblings that may look up to you, and I don't ever want her to think that it's okay to be beat on, to be spit on, to be verbally, mentally, sexually abused or anything, because it's not okay. So her, you know, asking me that, and then a friend of mine telling me that I should tell, but once I told, it was over. It was like, you know, don't keep nothing inside you all. It may be hard, but definitely try to speak up if you can, or reach out to me or Kanisha. Like, we are here to help you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your story, and like, you just never know who has went through what. And like you said, when people ask you, like, why do you keep picking these people? Like, do you think I would pick a person that I would want to abuse me? Like, no. And be sure y'all chime in. We can see y'all comments and everything. Be sure y'all chime in if y'all want to talk to us or whatever. But moving on from that, I definitely want to say that after I left, my next relationship was probably one of the hardest relationships, because I became the abuser in that relationship. When we would get into it, I was pushing my partner. I was more, I thought that we were supposed to fight. And then when we didn't fight, I was like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I'm saying? So with saying that, it's hard for us people that have been in a domestic violence relationship to go to a new, healthier relationship because of what we've been through before. So I'm a firm believer in like therapy and support groups and things like that to help you maneuver in new relationships. And the first step to knowing and getting away from a domestic violence relationship is actually knowing that you're in one. Mm-hmm. So with that, we're going to talk about the power and control wheel. Okay, so now these are some of the things that can help you identify whether or not that you are in a domestic violence relationship. And I do want to stop on each one and like talk more about it. So the first one I'm going to say is using intimidation. So it says making her afraid by using looks, actions, or gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, or displaying weapons. Intimidation can come in many forms. And that means like if somebody's pissed off at you and you did something to them and they hit the wall instead of you, that's a form of intimidation, right? Because they're actually making it seem like you could have been this wall. So you need to get your shit together or I'm going to pop you like I popped this wall. So that is a form of domestic violence. People use intimidation. You got anything on that?
I do, because when you said how your next relationship, you kind of were, the abuser because you were used to that, thinking that it was normal. In that situation, the one who had spit on me and all that, I became an abuser hearing this because I would throw things. That's what I would do because I can't fight you. That's the thing that trips me up is because my situations have been with the male. Not that there can't be a woman that's bigger than you or stronger than you, because it can be. But with me being a small stature person, I'm 5'2", So when you're up on me in my face, trying to choke me, do whatever, so I may throw something. I may, push you to get me off of me. So I feel like I became an abuser trying to protect my own self. But it's not right. And I always told myself that when I do share my story, which is my first time actually doing today. But
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
That's
I
big.
told myself when I do share my story, I'm not going to just put it on the man. It's not just the male. Because us as women, we can be aggressors too.
Yeah.
We can throw things. We can get fired up. We can, do whatever. So that was the thing that I did. I used to break things because I felt like I can't hit him. I could have hit him, but I feel like it's not going to do anything. But I got tired, you all, of picking up glass because I done threw my candle on the floor.
No,
I'm
seriously.
mad. Yeah, I got tired of
Seriously.
sweeping up stuff. I got tired of my hand being hurt because I'm hitting my hand on the table because I'm so mad. Now my hand's hurting for days, and I got a typing job. So I had to quit hurting myself, trying to protect myself. So I just had to eventually speak up, of course. But I do feel the intimidation part. I actually did that.
Absolutely. Felicia, we see you. We see what you're saying. And I can relate, honey. I can definitely relate. We love you for sharing, too.
Yes,
so the next one is using emotional abuse. This is a big one, I feel like. Putting her down, making him or her feel bad about themselves, calling them names, making them think that they're crazy, making them feel guilty. I feel like guilt is the one. Like, guilt is the one. So I think that in domestic violence situations, especially with like partners, it's like they try to make you feel guilty for doing anything in your life. Like, I feel guilty for getting dressed. I feel guilty for going out. I feel guilty for not making dinner. I feel guilty for not doing this. And so that's a form of control because now I feel like I have to do everything you say, because if not, then something's going to happen. We're going to have an argument. We're going to go through something. And then the biggest thing is like always putting the person down, like making them feel like nothing. They was a perpetrator, right? Because we're victims and perpetrators. Like a perpetrator will literally tear you all the way down to nothing, like to where you don't even have no self-esteem at all. Like you questioning yourself, like what you look like, what you doing, everything has to be asked for. You know what I mean? Like everything has to have a question. Like even now I feel like I just had an epiphany. That's why I was stuttering over my words, because I'm like, even now, like I'm always asking for everybody else's opinion. And that could very well stem from when I was in domestic violence relationships where I felt like I didn't have an identity. And I didn't know what I was doing with myself. I had to always second guess and ask this other person what it is that I'm supposed to do.
Right.
But that emotional abuse, whew, that's the one.
I do that too a lot, what you just said, and I have a problem with telling people no. I will say that, and it's crazy because on the contrary, I'm the advocate for posting, say no, you know, because my mom taught me that, say no, because the worst thing somebody could say to you, so to speak, is yes or no. Like, you know, they're either going to do it or they're not. So don't be scared to say no. But I have like a little issue with telling people no personally, like to their, you know, like directly, because I don't want to disappoint or let somebody down. But
Right.
sometimes you do, you know, that happens. But it's not a bad thing necessarily. But I felt like I had to always please someone else. That's
Yeah.
one thing I learned, being a people pleaser. You're always trying to do whatever to please somebody else, but you're not doing anything to make you happy. And all that does is bring self-misery in your life personally, because when that person is gone, because they'll go about their day for sure. Want to know where you going all the time. You can't leave, but they going to be gone, and they gone for some hours. At least I went through that.
Right,
you know, that's okay.
Right,
You better
right.
not call their phone and
You
blow
better
them up.
not ask nothing. You
yeah.
better not ask where I'm at, what I'm doing, where I'm going, nothing.
Yes.
You better not.
So,
or it's gonna be a problem. And then the next one is using isolation. We already talked about that, when they're trying to take you away from everyone. Another big one is minimizing, denying, and blaming. Making light of the abuse and not taking your concerns about it seriously. Saying the abuse didn't happen, or shifting responsibility for the abusive behavior, or saying that you caused it. This is huge because if you give someone a scenario, it's like, I hit you because you did this. If you would have cooked my dinner, then you wouldn't have made me so mad, and I wouldn't have went off on you the way that I did. Or I hit you, but I could have, or I spit on you, but I could have knocked you out.
yeah.
All of that is different ways of controlling the situation. Then what that does is, as the victim, now we're like, okay, so say you went out with your friends and you came home a little bit later, like your situation. Hey, Rashida. Say you went out with your friends, you came home a little later. Then when you came home, it was all of this shit. And then it's like, well, if you wouldn't have came home late, then I wouldn't have acted the way that I acted. So now, the next time your friends want to take you out, then what you gonna say? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna go because I don't even feel like dealing with this.
Yeah.
So when it comes to minimizing, denying, and blaming, that's something I feel like happens all the time. Or they'll try to flip it like, well, you know, I just didn't want you to leave me. I just wanted you to be here. You know, like, you go out with your friends, it just makes me feel like you don't love me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Feel bad. That ties into the guilt tripping too. I've been through that before as well, and it's ridiculous. And I did actually stop doing a lot of things. And I feel bad about it to this day, like with some of my friendships that I no longer really have, because they're like, oh, you know, I am deemed the #1 stunner. I'm not gonna lie, I do mean well, but I don't really do too much. But I did used to enjoy my life prior to that person, and I just kind of stopped going places, stopped doing things, and that really, like I said earlier, it brings misery to yourself, because I was so not happy. I can look through several pictures of mine from some years ago, and I just see the look in my eyes, and I'm like, I really posted this, like I was happy, you know, I had a great life, and it was horrible in my house.
I told you, it was the post of me with a whole black. I have a picture right now. And I remember that day so vividly because I had got my cheeks pierced that day. And we had this huge fight, and I had 2 black eyes. And literally, we was like this in the picture. I had 2 black eyes. Stupid. Like, I mean, not stupid, but you know.
No, it happened.
And people think, like, you are crazy. I can't believe you stayed in that relationship for so long. But it's like, they what is it? Like, they work on you for months and weeks and years and hours, and it's like every single day, and it just builds up. So it's like, if you wanted to leave the first month, like after the first time, it's like, it's so hard to leave because they done put all of this like mental abuse over and over and over. Now in your head, you second guessing yourself, like, I can't leave. This person really loves me, and they just making mistakes.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Pretty B?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for that. But that's what it is. Like, they're just like, that's what minimizing, denying, and blaming is. Like, I did this because of that. That is not a healthy relationship. That is domestic violence, domestic abuse.
It is.
That's abuse. So using children is another one. That's pretty much self-explanatory. using the children to relay messages to the other person, to the other parent, or just the children being involved. Using male privilege, I feel like that as well is self-explanatory. Men automatically think that they own, not all men, don't get me wrong, but these type of men think they own us or own the person, or even some women, because this happens with men too, and it goes across all genders, all sexes, all genders, everything. The person who is the perpetrator, they feel like they own the person.
I've been told that I'm his property. I own you. He's literally told me that. Like, who says it to someone? But I have been told that, and that's what they really thought as well. Like, actually, one thing I didn't say earlier, but I'll say real briefly. I left this past, I won't even say dates, because I really want to be non-descriptive when I tell my story. And again, this is a disclaimer. This is my story. That person has their own story. But I left my house, you all. I moved out.
That's what I did.
I wasn't even supposed to leave then. I didn't even really have nowhere to really go. Who does that? Like, when you're in a situation where, TMI, but I was working on some things, trying to get my credit together and stuff. So I really didn't even have a place to go to. Thank God for second chance housing. Yeah. Because I literally left and I went to stay with my parents. Who does that? As a 31-year-old woman.
I did the same thing.
Yes, I moved out. Like, took away my whole, and I still had my job, I'm still working every day. But I took away my space, my freedom, and all of that to escape. And that's how I look at it. I look at it like I escaped. So, like, to this day, if they ever roll past, Taliah is not there anymore. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that, but I had to dip too, because I cannot.
And sometimes you have to, because, honey, I left my whole apartment and everything. I ain't take nothing out of her. Nothing.
Yeah, I gave away everything. I didn't want my couch that they was on. I didn't want my bed. I gave what you need. I gave away everything. Kitchen tables, you can have it.
Nothing. I don't even think I took my clothes. Come to think about it. I don't even think I took my clothes. I just left. I left by myself. So another one is using economic abuse. Preventing them from getting or keeping a job, making them ask for money, giving her or him an allowance, taking their money, not letting them know about or have access to the family income. This is huge. And it can be very manipulative too. It could be like, oh, I don't want you to work because I want the domestic situation. Yeah. I want you to be at home with the kids. I want you to not worry about it. But then you got to ask him for tampons. I literally had to ask the dude that I was with, I had to ask him to buy me tampons. He didn't give me no access to money. None. No access, like none. Like, all my money went in the pot, and anything that I needed, I had to ask for it. Like,
man, I never had to do that one, but I did have an interfering with the workplace, because I work from home. I worked from home at that time, and I would literally be I had to move away, y'all, from my work area, because I don't own these computers, so you can't be breaking my work stuff. So I've had coffee mugs broke, all type of stuff happen. They take my glasses off. That's one thing I don't like. Some people would laugh when I tell them, make them think it's funny, but it's not. Like, I feel like it's taking away an ability of mine, or lack thereof. You don't take off my glasses, so now I can't see. You're holding me down. I'm not even on break. I'm supposed to be working. So I had to actually tell my boss, one person I never thought I would have to tell. I had to tell her one day, because I had to let her know why I was away for so long. Like, I'm not trying to not do my work, but I'm really dealing with some stuff over here. So keeping you away from your money too, that I've dealt with that.
Yeah. And then the last one, dang, that's rough. Like, I commend you for that, because that's rough. That's rough. Yeah, look at me getting teary-eyed. That's rough. Like, to have to talk to your job about it, and I've been through that in situations where I've had a black eye and I had to go to work, and it's so embarrassing. Like, I can't describe the level of embarrassment, like, when you have to go to work with a black eye or a busted lip and you don't have no explanation other than the person that I love is beating me to death. Like, but I'm gonna stay with them, and I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna be fine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then the last one we're gonna talk about on the control wheel is the using coercion and threats, making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt you, threatening to leave or commit suicide, to report her to welfare, making them drop charges, or making them do illegal things. That's the one.
It is.
That's the one.
It is.
I remember when my partner went to jail, they called me from jail phone and was like, bitch, you better get me out of this jail. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Or I'm okay, like dead ass. Like, how you threaten me over the phone in jail for some domestic violence? Like, how?
Yeah.
And guess what I did when they got out? Went straight back. Straight back. Crazy. Like, but it's instilled in us that this is okay, and it's not. It's not okay. It's not okay. But that threatening to leave and commit suicide, that is abuse.
Mm-hmm.
That is abuse. That is a form of manipulation. That is a tactic that perpetrators use to make you feel like you can't do anything, or you're responsible for a decision of that magnitude.
Yeah. I went through that before too. They said they were gonna kill themselves. They were gonna kill me, you know. And that's like one thing too that kind of woke me up as well. Like, yes, my sister, you know, questioning like, why did I stay, or why do I put up with it? But also, as she had stated in my introduction, I am a writer. I want to be a great author one day. And I kept telling myself when I was in those situations, I don't want to be the world's best author from prison. Like, because at some point, sadly, it's going to be them or you.
Right.
But we don't want it to get to that point. So I had to also wake up with that too. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, because you love them so much, you know, there'll be great days too. Great days. Everything's perfect.
Yes,
But then there's just something that
yes.
goes off and just triggers them. And then now it's a horrible day. And I'm just tired of those days. I'm tired of finding myself on the floor. I'm tired of you on top of me, holding me down. Yes. Very draining. Like, I just can't, you know, I couldn't continue to do it. I did it for long enough, but I had to pick myself. I had to choose me and love me more than I love that person.
And we don't deserve to be hit. I don't care. Like, that is not love. Like, being hit, crying, hurt, fixing eyes, and looking at bruises on your body, that is not love at all. At all. Like, even if you're the perpetrator, like, you should not, anybody that you love, you should not put your hands on it. I don't care how hard or how mad or how frustrating the situation is. Like, under no circumstance, male or female, or in between, anywhere in between, it is not okay to be abused at all.
It's not.
It's not okay. And an apology ain't gonna cut it. Ain't gonna cut it. Ain't gonna cut it. So with that, I do want to talk about LGBTQ and domestic violence. LGBTQ plus people have the highest rates in domestic violence. Why do you think that?
It really shocked me to discover that, but not necessarily. But I just never looked into, you know, that statistic necessarily. But I think it could be from, as you stated earlier, with your woman you was in a relationship with. You know, and people do say this too. It's a thing. People be like, well, you know, lesbians, they gonna be, and they fight it out. But it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is or what your gender is. You shouldn't. But I think maybe, I can't speak for men, you know, for the gay men, but maybe with women, because we're women, we're catty, we always want. I don't know, but it was just shocking to know that there was that's the highest.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think I sent it to you. Can we pull it up? I think it's in the other thing, because we're gonna go into statistics next. And I feel like gay and lesbian situations are the way that they are because, like I said, it's looked at like it's not as serious because we're the same sex. Like, it's not as serious because y'all both women, or y'all both are men, or y'all both are whatever. Like, it's not that serious because I feel like people feel like we're on the same playing field. Like, one woman is not really stronger than the other woman. So I'm going to say the statistics really quick for LGBTQ. 44% of lesbians and 61% of bisexual women experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner, as compared to 35% of straight women. Among LGBTQ respondents, 7% reported experience physical dating violence and 8% reported sexual dating violence. And then in the transgender survey found that more than half, 54% of transgender and non-binary respondents experienced intimate partner violence in their lifetime. 54%. Go back because we got some people that on your page. 54% of transgender. We back. we back. 54% of transgender and non-binary people experience domestic violence. 44% of lesbian and bisexuals experience it. That is high. That's almost half.
It is. It's definitely.
That is high as fuck. Excuse my language, but that is high. And I feel like when lesbians or gay people in general, LGBTQ people, go through domestic violence, it's not even reported because it's so common.
Yeah.
It's so common. And it's so sad. Like,
a lot of steps, you know. So even if you tell somebody, even if you tell the police at your house when they finally come, because they do not come. Let me tell you this too. I don't mean to interrupt, but it's related.
Go ahead.
I had to call the police. They did not come until 2.5 hours. I could have been dead. That is so sad. But when I called that day, when the other ex of mine broke into my house, the police got there in 10 minutes. And my dad told me they care about property damage. And I think that's a shame because even though we're not property, you know what I'm saying, but we still matter. So if somebody is calling for help, they should come immediately.
Right.
But I just wanted to say that because it just made me think.
That's wild to me.
I was waiting all night.
I was gonna talk about that too because you know that in some states they don't acknowledge domestic partnerships. So even if you have a fight with a domestic partner and they don't recognize that in the state, that's not domestic violence technically in that state.
Yeah, we gotta change it too.
We gotta change it too. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna talk about some statistics. We'll go over some statistics of domestic violence. So, more than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced 1 in 4. That is a lot of. That's wild to me. That's wild. Okay, have experienced either physical violence, rape, stalking. Stalking is domestic violence. Period. I think a lot of people don't think that, but stalking is domestic violence. That means somebody watching your moves, watching your page, coming up to events where you at, where you ain't supposed to be. That's stalking.
It is.
Each day in the United States, over 20,000 calls are placed to domestic violence hotlines by individuals reporting incident. 20 people on average per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. 20 people every single minute. 20 people are right now getting abused as we speak. A weapon is used in 19% of domestic violence incidents. And then most of the victims of domestic violence are between the ages of 18 and 24, which is really alarming. Mm-hmm. These is our babies. These is our little sisters and our kids that are out here experiencing this. Some more statistics are 1 in 5 women have been raped and 1 in 71 men have been raped in their lifetime. This represents a very large portion of the American population that has first-hand experience with sexual violence. Let me see. 1 in 4 gay men and 1 in 3 bisexual men will be a victim of rape or physical abuse by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Do we need to explain what that is? Like, it's forcefully having sex when you do not want to, even if you're in a relationship. One thing that people don't understand is that even if I'm your wife or I'm your girlfriend or whoever I am or whatever dynamic that we have, I don't have to consent to have sex with you. If I say no, that is no. And if you take it, whether it be forcibly, because it don't have to be forcibly. It could be, you can guilt trip me into having to feel like I have to have sex with you. I'm not consenting, but you're guilt tripping me into feel like I have to. That's not consent. Consent is only yes in my right mind. That means sobriety. Yes, I want to have sex with you in this way. Because you can also forcibly have sex with somebody and I can say yes to certain acts in sex, but then if it goes to a different act and I didn't consent that's still forcibly raping me. Period. So we need to realize that just because we are in relationships with people, we have to make sure that everything is consensual when it comes to sexual relationships, or even just anything that we do in life. You can't force somebody to do. I want to talk about the personal and societal impact of domestic violence. So 81% of women who have experienced stalking, rape, physical violence suffer from long-term physical injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder. 35% of men have. Women who are victims of domestic violence are 3 times as likely to report that they struggle with mental health than those who do not experience domestic violence. That is gotta be true. The cost of an intimate partner violence is $8.3 billion a year.
Crazy.
Wow. That's a lot of money. So is there a correlation between increased suicide? Yes. Those victims of domestic violence, the effects of the violence of a person can be severe and long lasting. Having a gun in the home, 72% of all murder suicides stem from an intimate partner and violence, and the percentage of the likelihood of someone dying from gun violence in a domestic violence situation is 500%. 500%. If there's a gun in the home, 500%. That is crazy.
Yeah,
those are crazy numbers.
I was totally against because they wanted to get a gun, and I I'm all for protecting my household, But when you're not safe in your own household, I feel like I need to be protected from you knowing this gun is in here. So I didn't even want to have a gun with that person because I felt like instead of you grabbing the knives, you're gonna go run and grab that.
I mean, 74% and 500% is those are pretty much to me. It's like a guarantee. Like It's just too much. It's too much. One thing I did want to touch on, the last thing with the statistics that I wanted to touch on was the children. 1 in 15 children are exposed to domestic violence. 1 in 15. Children who witness domestic violence are at much greater risk of continuing the cycle of abuse in their life. So if you don't care right now about your own life, and you have children that are witnessing this, think about the cycle of abuse that can happen in their own life, whether they are the victim or even the perpetrator in these situations. One thing that really stood out to me when I was looking at the statistics, it said a young girl who witnesses her mother being abused by her father is 6 times more likely to be sexually abused as a girl. I don't know how that relates, but that is just overwhelming to me. That's overwhelming to me. 1 in 5 female high school students report being physically and sexually abused by someone that they are dating. That's huge. That's why I keep saying that's huge, because it's just mind blowing. Like the statistics that are happening is just mind blowing to me. Like it's mind blowing to me. Because these numbers are large, and I feel like no one is doing anything. I'm not going to say no one, but we are not having these conversations that need to be had, because who really cares? It's always like it's not my business.
Oh, yeah. Can I touch on that?
Yes.
Okay. I was in my bathroom screaming for my life. I know my neighbor heard me. I know they did. They had to have. I mean, I hear them when they're just talking. I hear their TV, their music playing. So you don't hear me screaming at the top of my lungs saying help. So please help. You don't have to come to that person's door. You don't have to get involved.
They called. My neighbor called the.
Well, I heard you say that.
Yeah.
Yes, I was like, thank God for that type of neighbor. Like, please be that neighbor or that bystander. Because if it was a fight happening, and and it still relates, we gonna be out there. Sadly, not myself, because I don't promote that. But they'll be recording. But why won't you step in when you hear somebody screaming at the top of their lungs?
Yeah.
So please help. I just have to say that, because I felt like I didn't get the help that I called out for that day. And thank goodness I got out of that situation with them. But it was to the point to where every room in my house was a reminder of that person. That's why I had to leave. Even when they were gone, I'm like, I can't be in the bathroom, the bedroom, the living room. I don't want to be in here at all.
And the thing is, like, one thing that I really want to say throughout this whole, that sticks, that I feel like will stick with you, is like, Domestic violence is everybody's business. Everybody's business. Everybody's business. If you know somebody that is going through what they're going through, do you have any advice on how to help a friend or how to navigate that space where you know somebody's going through something? Hey, sorry y'all, I don't know what happened.
Stay tuned.
I don't know what happened. Take the sound off. I'm sorry, I don't know what that was about. That was strange. We're just gonna close that down. But do you have any advice as far as like what they can do to be a friend to somebody who's going through that sort of thing?
Number one, if you have a friend to talk to, tell that friend so they can already be aware. You know, because sometimes it may not always be physical, you know, marks on your body because there's so many different, you know, forms of domestic abuse that they may not know. But if you are a friend that is aware, there are several resources that you can give that person. I wouldn't recommend, you know, you putting that person on blast or going to tell somebody for them. Let them come to you when they're ready. Sometimes it takes a long time to be ready, but one day they're going to wake up and they're going to ask for that help. So we do have a national domestic violence hotline. You can either call the number, so you can give that friend that number, and I will give the number now. It's 800-799-7233. Or
also, it should also be in the comment section in the file.
Perfect. So you text it on there. And you can text too. So you can text START to 88788. So you can just kind of give them that National Domestic Violence Hotline. You can encourage them to tell, you know, maybe their parents or, you know, somebody, a therapist.
Be a listening ear. And don't get frustrated.
Yes,
like,
don't.
It's so easy to tell somebody what you wouldn't do when you're not in that situation. It's like, I could never. Because I was that person, honey. I was like, I ain't gonna never let nobody put their hands on me. But here I am in a 2-year relationship getting beat up. Yeah. You know, so like, don't ever judge a person because being in that situation, when you're not in it and you're in it, sometimes they can't see what's really going on because they're so in it. You know what I'm saying? So give them some grace. And I know that it's very hard to see somebody that you love going through something like that, but just always listen. Always pick up the phone. Always, no matter how many times they come and they go back and they talk to you and they go back and they talk to you and they go back, because we don't know when that time they come back, when that talk is actually going to be the talk where they're ready to just be like, you know what, I'm done. So that's my advice, is just be the listener, be there, be the home that they can come home to. Help them come up with a strategy, an exit plan. Help them come up with a way that they can get out. Help them. I want you to talk about the work
EAP. So also, many employers, they do offer the Employee Assistance Program. It's called EAP for short. I actually was told about EAP from my manager because the day that I was being abused, I had to step away from my job. So I told her about it, and the first thing she said was, you know, we have a program. Many employers have the Employee Assistance Program. It becomes a part of your benefits plan at the job. So you do get 4 free sessions to talk to a therapist that you do not know. It is completely confidential. They do not tell your job. It's so confidential to where when you call the 800 number, they give you a list of therapists that you can choose that live near you. And due to COVID, of course, everything was online, so I didn't even have to go anywhere. I can just log on, make my appointment, pick who I wanted. They don't even know who I picked. They just sent that payment to the person. And after your 4 free sessions, you are able to pay through your insurance, or if you have the HSA, the Health Savings Plan, or the FSA account, you can use that for payment too. So I think that was very beneficial to me to be able to talk about it, because I haven't talked about it. Like after I told, that's all I did. I told my boss, I told my friend who made me tell my family, and I thank you to this day. If you are looking at this, I thank her every day. Because once I told it was off from there. But use those programs because it's very helpful. It's there for you to utilize. It's not just for, say if someone passed away. I offer that to my folks at my job too. Use EAP. But you can use it for domestic violence situations too. You can talk to them about it, because I was actually triggered watching something on TV. There was an episode of Sisters by Tyler Perry. Love Sisters. But Gary squeezed her so hard, so long, he made her go unconscious. He made her pass out. And she ignored that because she's like, oh, he was just upset. He loves me. He was just holding me. But you could have died, So me watching that on TV, I couldn't even watch certain stuff, y'all. I could hear stuff. There was a young lady down the street from my apartment getting abused outside. And it made me I went out there. Like I told you, you don't have to go stop nothing, but I'd be doggone, my neighbor, I screamed, he didn't do nothing, him and his girlfriend over there. Maybe they wasn't home, and maybe I shouldn't think like that, but I felt like I wanted help and I didn't get it. So when I seen this young girl, it got really bad. Like they were down at the corner store, the police came, he chased in the car, the ambulance, it was a big thing. But I went and I talked to them. I just happened to be at the gas station that day when it happened too. So, there are certain people that are in your life for a reason. I feel that way about you. This here, I didn't even know, we do business together, but I didn't, we don't always share something so personal and intimate. So for us to share this evening and have so much in common, even though it's not a great thing, it is though, because
we're able to be, I look at it like this, I go through things so that I'm able to be a testimony to other people. Like, it sucks to be a victim of, a survivor of domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? It sucks. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and we can talk to somebody, even if we reach one person. Like, that's important, because this is something that needs to be talked about, and people don't want to talk about it because domestic violence has no age, no sex, no race, no religion, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? You could look at somebody on the outside and think that they have everything going on. They could be #1 person on social media. They could be the #1 business person. They could be the most. They have a husband and a wife and a family and just whatever. And you don't know what happens between that time that they're in the public and when they go home. Mm-hmm. So it's like these conversations need to be had, because when people see other people on the other side, then it gives them some sort of hope, like that could be me. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you were here. I'm glad that we had this conversation. Before we go, definitely, I want you to talk about your book that's coming out. Yes. I want to say again, the tea is fabulous. If you want to order the tea, inbox me, or you can go to Sis Got Tea on all social media platforms. Be sure you follow Beyond the Shade on all social media platforms. TikTok, Beyond the Shade, YouTube. All these will be uploaded on YouTube so you can watch them again if needed. Thank you for being so transparent. Thank you for being on the show. Like, thank you for telling your story publicly for the first time. Like, that's crazy, and I'm so grateful that you chose this platform to do that on, because it takes a lot of strength to be there. But I do want to say one more thing before you say about your book. On the other side of being a survivor of domestic violence, how did that change your life?
It changed my life.
Come on, Bram.
Look, I got tears right. It changed my life because, for one, it made me realize how valuable life is. Not that I didn't know, but everybody has a purpose. Sometimes you may not know what that purpose is until something happens for you to finally wake up and realize it. But it changed me because I want to be that advocate for people now. I want to advocate to let people know this is not right. You should not deal with it. Please speak up. Please tell somebody. Please leave. Like, even if you gotta leave all your stuff, leave. Like, I literally moved out of my place and moved in with my mom. I was on a couch in a basement. Now, that's something to tell publicly. I did that to myself to save myself because I didn't know what could happen, Yeah. So I would never, think that, I'm moving back in. And things happen, You can go back with your parents, Thank God you have them for you to do that. Nothing wrong with ever going back home. But for me to do it purposely, it really was just a life-changing situation, because it put me, I felt like I was just all the way just down. So like you said, you never know what somebody is going through, because I still went to work every day, but here I am in a basement on the couch. I have my own bathroom down here. I gave away my space for my life, I feel like. So just don't be scared to speak up and tell somebody. I know that it's hard. I know that you may go back 1,000 times. Thank you. But you have to choose yourself. You gotta love yourself, because your life is worth it. Your life really does matter. Yeah. And one more thing too, before I even talk about my book, when you date people, people always talk about what's your favorite color, what's your sign. F all that. We need to discuss, do you have any mental health issues?
Yeah.
And when I tell you there is nothing wrong, I support and I am here to advocate for those who have mental issues as well. But we as a people have to speak up to people and tell people, I have bipolar disorder, I have schizophrenia, I have medication for this. And because if you need my help making sure that you're taking your medication, I will go pick it up for you if it's going to make you a better person for you and you a better person for me.
And that's the transparency piece.
Yes.
Do you have any history of domestic violence?
Yes.
I mean, that's a thing too.
Yes.
Or do you have a history of anything? I think the transparency part is definitely needed when you date people, because not judging somebody off their past, but what have you done to counteract that? Like when you approach somebody about mental illness, like what are you doing to help that situation? You know what I'm saying? So I definitely agree with you on that.
Because I think people should have a choice. And when I say a choice, and I would never say a choice on if you want to deal with it, because it's not a dealing thing, because that's a very touchy topic too. And I'm here to support and help those who have mental illnesses. But I should be able to choose if I want to deal with somebody who has schizophrenia or that has bipolar disorder, because I know that that's likely going to trigger the way you treat and react to me. But if I don't know that you're going through that, then every day I'm just being abused by somebody that really isn't you. It's you physically doing it to me, but you are not there mentally. I know that's not you. When I look in your eyes, when I'm laid back and you're holding me down and you're hovering over me, I see a devil in your face. Like, that's not even who I love. It's not even the person I know. So I think that we should speak up on our mental health as well. You should ask about mental health to people, just like you ask about credit scores and birthdays and Sagittarius, Virgo. You need to know that too.
And speaking from the other side, because I do have a mental illness, I do have bipolar disorder, and that's something in my relationships that people don't really ask. They usually see how I acted and they're like, wait a minute, do you have something going on? But I do have bipolar disorder. I do things daily to correct those things, but one thing that I do in relationships is I disclose that. And speaking from now, this particular relationship, my partner was like, well, when you have this, what do I do? When you have a trigger, what do I do? Or what triggers you? Or what doesn't? Or what happens? So it's possible to have a relationship with somebody that is mentally ill. However, it's about transparency and communication and knowing what you sign up for and knowing what you're willing to sign up for. And it's okay if you don't want to put yourself through that. If that's something that's a deal breaker for you, it's okay to say that. But if it's not, it's also okay to say that you want to. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, it's all about communication, honesty, transparency, and choices.
Yes, because I definitely would have helped. I just didn't
know.
Like,
you can't be blindsiding me.
What's going on? But now I can understand, and it's a heck of a thing to battle. Like, I can only imagine, what they're going through themselves mentally. And I think that was the toughest thing for me, to be honest, was because after time I knew. So it makes me feel bad. Like, for you.
No, don't feel bad, because it's manageable.
I know, but I was like, well, all what they have, but they're not doing what they needed to do to keep themselves stable and steady.
That's that guilt mindset. That ain't got nothing to do with you. They need to get their own stuff together. And that's one thing that I will say with me having bipolar disorder. That's one thing that I will say. My triggers are nobody's responsibility but mine. So I'm the one who's responsible for that. And if I can't get myself together, I can't expect for people to take my shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So no.
You're right.
There are things in place to help people be better people, and if they're not utilizing that, then no, it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with that.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna say that, honey. No, ma'am.
Okay,
let's talk about your book.
Yes, I have a book coming out. It's gonna be I'm gonna try to get it on all platforms. It's gonna be an ebook.
No, we are
gonna
get it on all platforms.
And I want to get a paper book too, because I always do ebooks. I have an ebook out there now, which I'll tell you about too, just for the heck of it. But I have a book coming out. It's called The Red Flag: Recognizing the Signs Before They Happen. There's so many things that I feel like that we ignore, that we overlook, that if only we seen that red flag, if only we noticed what they're doing was emotional or mental or whatever abuse before it even got to the physical, then we could probably prevent things. Not saying all the time, because, you know, it could be a random occurrence, but I think that there's several steps that I'm going to discuss, not think, but I am. I have it laid out for you all. It's kind of going to be like a how-to, like what to do, how to work through certain red flags, how to recognize them. So again, it's going to be available on Amazon,
and
on the Kindle, and all other platforms. But it's called The Red Flag: Recognizing the Signs Before It Happens. I think that's very important. You know, Facebook had a whole trend going on about red flags, like it's funny. You know, I shared some because there are some things like, oh, but seriously. There are some red flags that we know about, but we don't even do nothing about it. We just take it like, oh, that's normal. No, it's not. Let's do something about it. Let's try to change what the outcome may be if you recognize that red flag. So I will post more things. I am tagged on her live, so you can follow me. And I will be promoting that book once the time comes. I plan to drop it on December 2nd. And actually, I want to put it on pre-sale on November 1st. So within the next few weeks, you can at least start to pre-order it.
Yes. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Taliah, so much for being transparent and coming through. Like, I'm so excited. The next sensuality topic will be all about sex. We're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about sex. You know, that's my thing. And the guest on that show will be a surprise. So you got to stay tuned for the teaser in the middle of the week. Thank you, Sis Got Tea. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will see you next Monday at 8 o'clock. Peace out.